Hi everyone, and welcome back to the series where I make one square a week out of the Granny Square Stitches card deck. This week we are making this one, which they call the Paired Single Crochet. If we take a look at the chart, let me get a pointy tool. These are the paired single crochets, and basically what that means is you're putting two single crochets into one stitch. So we will tackle that when we get there. We are going to start with our chain and then a row of single crochet and then get into the pattern. Looking at the front side, we're just alternating colors, striped colors, all throughout. So I think, like we did last week with our moss stitch, I can probably just carry the colors up the side. Let's read the notes and instructions. So if you want to make it bigger or smaller, your starting chain needs to be any odd number. And yep, that's it. And then for this square, as they've shown, we're going to make 17 chains. Follow the chart working in one row stripes of yarns A through C as shown until square. And then we're going to do our border like we've been doing. So a reminder, the border can be found in your little booklet on pages 22 and 23. All right, let's get started. Today, I'm using these three colors of Anthem. So I've got lavender, pink pearl, and cactus. And I'm going to start with the lavender. I know that that's not the colors according to the card, but well, it's my crochet project, so I'm going to start with whatever color I want. And I want to start with the lavender. I have my 5mm hook, which is the hook that I like to use when I'm working with Anthem yarn. So whatever yarn you're using, find a hook that works with that. And that information is normally found on your label. So we're going to make a chain, which means we need to start with a slip knot. So the way I like to do my slip knots, I have the tail in the palm of my hand and I wrap the yarn around 2 fingers, and then I just kind of keep going and go underneath the yarn on top of my fingers, pulling through a loop, and then I can just pull that to tighten it. Get that on my hook, and we are going to chain 17. So we're going to yarn over, so the yarn is over our hook, and pull that yarn through the loop that's on our hook already. And we're going to do that a total of 17 times. So I have 17 chains. I like to work into my back bumps because that gives me a nice finished edge when I come around to do my edging, but you work wherever is comfortable for you. And we are going to put a single crochet into the second chain. And the reason I know that is this. So this is where we started, where the little arrow is. We made 17 chains, and then you see how there's one chain on the side. That means we skip our first chain and our first single crochet goes into the second chain. And we're going to single crochet into each chain all the way down, changing color in the last chain. So let's take a look at that. Since I'm working into my back bump, I can just count my bumps. So that's my first bump. I'm going to skip that one and I'm going to work a single crochet into this bump. So I'm going to insert my hook into that bump. I'm going to pull through a loop of my working yarn. I take a moment to sort of straighten out those loops on my hook. Then I'm going to yarn over and pull through the 2 loops that are on my hook. So that's one single crochet. I'm going to do that again in the next chain, which for me are these bumps on the bottom of my chain. And we're going to do that in each chain all the way down our chain. So I will meet you at the end where we do a color change. Okay, I'm at my last chain. I'm going to insert my hook into that last chain and pull through a loop of yarn. So I've got 2 loops on my hook. I can drop my purple. I'm going to go to my pink pearl next. Let's find the end. I'm going to drape that on my hook and pull that through. And now I'm going to grab my working yarn of my purple and just kind of drape it over my hook. And then I can pull through with my pink for my chain. And that just kind of gets my purple out of the way. Okay, so let's take a look at the pattern now on the chart. So we've just done our chain. We're going to single crochet in the first stitch, and then we're going to put 2 single crochets in the next stitch, skip a stitch, and repeat. So 2 single crochets in 1 stitch, skip a stitch, 2 single crochets in 1 stitch, skip a stitch, all the way down until our last chain where we put a single crochet and we change colors. So let's work that together. I'm going to insert into that first stitch. Let's just come right in here. Draw through a loop, 2 loops on my hook, draw through for my first single crochet. Now in this next stitch, we're going to put 2 single crochets. So I'm going to insert into the stitch, draw through a loop, yarn over and pull through for my first single crochet. Now I'm going to go right back into that stitch and make a second single crochet. So that's what it looks like. Now I'm going to skip the next stitch and I'm going to put 2 single crochets in this stitch. So there's 1 and 2. Skip the next stitch, 2 single crochets in the next. 1, 2. Skip a stitch, 2 single crochets. So repeat that all the way down your chain. I'll meet you in the last stitch where we're going to put 1 single crochet and then we're going to change color. Here I am finishing off my last paired single crochets. So now I'm going to skip the second to last stitch, and then in my last stitch I'm going to put a single crochet. Sometimes this last stitch can get a little bit buried. If you find that happening to you, use stitch markers to indicate your first and last stitches. So insert, I'm going to pull up a loop, and this is where I pull in my green. Drape my green on my hook and pull it through those loops. Give everything a tug to sort of tighten it up. And we're going to chain with our green, turn our work. And then we just repeat that pattern. We're going to single crochet in the first stitch. And then our next stitch has 2 single crochets into it. And let's do a little bit of stitch anatomy right now. I'm going to get my hook out of the way. Hang on. Now I'm looking at the back side of my work. I'll turn it over and show you the front side in a minute. But this is the stitch from my purple row. And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 legs coming out of that stitch. That indicates that there are 2 single crochets within that stitch. What it looks like from the front side is very similar, but more defined, where you can see those 4 legs. So when I look at the chart, we're on this green row. I've put a single crochet in the first stitch. Sorry if that's not focusing. Put a single crochet in the first stitch. Here's my paired single crochets, and the next pair of single crochets is attached to this single crochet of the pair below. So I'm going to single crochet in that first single crochet. I'm going to skip the next one and then single crochet in the first of the next 2, skip the next one. So it's the exact same pattern we did when we were setting up these paired single crochets. So we're not gaining or losing any stitches, but it just looks a little bit different because we are working with single crochets that are within one stitch instead of separated. Hope that makes sense. So let's do this together. This is the first single crochet of my pair. So it's going to get 2 single crochets. 1, 2. I'm going to skip the next single crochet, come to the next single crochet and put 2 single crochets in there. So 1, 2. Skip the next stitch, put 2 single crochets in the next stitch. Skip the stitch, 2 single crochets in the next stitch. Skip a stitch, 2 single crochets. So we're going to keep doing this all the way down the row until we get to our last stitch. Whoopsies, split that yarn there. So skip the second to last stitch and then go into your final stitch, pull up a loop. You're going to drop your green, you're going to pull your purple that's waiting for you. I don't know what's going on with all the shadows today. Very sorry. Pull that purple that's waiting for you and slide it through the loops on your hook for your color change. You're going to chain with your purple, turn your work, and then you're going to repeat this pattern. So single crochet in the first stitch, and then 2 single crochets in the next stitch, skip a stitch, 2 in the next, skip a stitch, 2 in the next, skip, 2 in the next, all the way down your row. Skip the second to last stitch, insert into the last stitch, pull up a loop, drop your purple, your pink is waiting for you, pull that through, chain with your pink, and repeat. So we're going to work this pattern until our square is square. Our piece of work, I guess I should say. So let's look at this guy. We have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 rows of the paired single crochets. So I am going to keep working. You're just going to keep working the exact same stitch pattern for every row. You're just changing color at the end of each row. So let's work 13 rows and then I will meet back. With my tension, I have a few, well, I think I have 1 extra row. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 in the pattern, whereas this one had 13, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13. So, oh well. If you are wondering how to check if your square is square, this is how you do it. Take the bottom, in my case, right corner. It doesn't really matter, but I'm going to take the bottom right corner and I'm going to fold it up to the top left corner. And then I'm just going to line up my edges. And if they line up, you have a square. Congratulations. If they don't, so like if you were to fold it up and you still had a gap, you would need to do 1 more row. Okay, so that means I have just switched to my purple, so I'm going to do my border in purple, but it does mean that I can cut off these other tails. So and I will sew those in later. So now we're ready to do our border. So just a reminder, again, I know I've already said this in this video, your border instructions are found in your booklet on pages 22 and 23. And you're basically just doing 2 rounds of single crochet. So you put a single crochet in each stitch along the top and the bottom. Those are easy. And then you sort of have to guesstimate along the sides. In your corners, you're doing a single crochet, a chain 1, and a single crochet. I like to mark my chain 1s because it can be a little bit tricky to find those later. So I'm just going to take a moment and sort of clear everything away so that we can focus on our border. So I have changed to purple. I'm going to chain 1 with my purple, turn my work, and let's just, there we go. And so now we are going to, sorry, my green tail's in the way. We are going to single crochet in each stitch across the top. So we should have 16, 1, 2, 15, and 16. Yay! I did not gain or lose any stitches in the process. So now I'm in the corner, I'm going to chain 1 and then I'm going to single crochet right back into that stitch, and that helps me turn the corner. And then stitch anatomy time. Let's look at this so we know exactly where to put our stitch marker. So this V here is the single crochet that we just made that is around the corner. And then we've got this little V there, and then we got this V. This V is the last single crochet of our top row. This guy here is our chain 1. So you want to find the sort of space. So if you come underneath, you need to like pull these stitches apart. We don't want to stitch into this single crochet stitch. We want to find this space here. So we've got 2 legs, that's our single crochet, and then that's our chain 1. So this is our chain 1 space. So that's where you need to put your stitch marker, because when you come around to do row 2, in that space is where you're going to make your corner, which is a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet. I hope that is not too confusing for you. So now we're going to come down the side. I said I had 14 rows, so and they were all single crochet rows. So I'm going to put a single crochet at the end of each row, and then 1 at the base. So basically my last stitch is also the first stitch of my row along the bottom. So we've already got 1 in this purple row, or well, kind of green row actually. Yes, definitely green row. So we need 1 down here in this pink row. That feels like a little bit too deep for me. So I'm going to try and come through. I've got a lot of like tails and whatnot here. So I'm going to try and punch my way through the center of all that tail shenanigans. And now I need 1 for this purple row, and then 1 in the green row. Sometimes you get kind of a big gap when you're changing colors and everything. So one of the reasons that I'm trying to sort of punch through all the fibers along the side is so that I don't want to put my hook into a big gap like that and make it even bigger. Does that make sense? So if I can punch through all of these strands along the side, it helps mask how big that gap is. I am wanting to come and grab at least 2 strands of yarn as I go through on the side. Lots of things to consider. I know there's a lot of things to consider when you're crocheting. It's not quite so simple as stab, hook, make stitch. But then again, it also is just that simple. All right. So now I'm down at my first row of single crochet. So I'm going to find the first row of my bottom, which is also the last stitch of my side. I really hope that makes sense to you guys. So that I'm making a corner. So I have a single crochet. I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to go right back into that same stitch and make another single crochet. And then we're going to put our stitch marker in that chain 1 space. And now I'm going to single crochet in each stitch along the bottom. Because I went into my back bumps, I have these really nice defined V's to find. Makes it easy. We're going to do our corner, our single crochet, chain 1, single crochet. I'm going to come up the side. I will meet you at this corner. All right, I am back at my beginning corner. So I have put the last single crochet of the side in there. This is the first single crochet of the round. Because we're in a corner, I need to chain 1, and then I'm going to slip stitch to that first single crochet of the round, and that joins up my round. And now I can chain 1 and kind of repeat the process. So I'm going to start in the very first stitch that I just slip stitched to, and then single crochet in every stitch. When we get to our stitch markers, we're going to do our corner, our single crochet, chain 1, single crochet. Right in where the stitch markers are, which should be our chain 1 space. Okay, I'm at the corner, so let's take a look at this. This V here is my last single crochet of the row, and then I've got my stitch marker where my chain 1 space is, and then that is the next, like the first single crochet of the side. So I need to put a single crochet in the last stitch. I need to find that chain 1 space again, which is like right in here. I'm going to single crochet. I'm going to chain 1. I don't need to mark it this time because I'm not coming around for a third round. And then single crochet right back in that same space. And then I need to make sure that I single crochet in the first stitch of the row, which sometimes gets a little buried because it's sort of within your corner there. And then we're going to keep going, and we're just going to single crochet in each stitch. So continue to do that. I will meet you back at the beginning. I'm at my last corner. I've already taken my stitch marker out. I've got this one last single crochet to make, and now I'm in my chain 1 space. So we're going to do a single crochet, a chain 1, go right back into that same space and do another single crochet. And now I'm going to do what I like to do, which is my invisible join. So I'm going to cut my yarn and just pull my hook out and draw that yarn out with it. Put it on to a yarn needle. And then we're going to look at the top of our work here. This is our first single crochet. We're going to skip over that. We're going to take our yarn from front to back, or a needle from front to back, through underneath the second stitch, pull it through. We're going to come back to the last stitch made. We're going to go right down the middle, out the back. And then we're just going to pull that until our stitch matches and you can't tell where the join is. And then you can flip your work over and weave your needle through the stitches at the back. And my yarn came off my needle. I'm still going to do a couple more passes, but for the sake of this video, we are finished. That is the paired single crochet for week number 6. So let's take a look at what we're going to be making next week. Ooh, bright colors. This one is the houndstooth stitch. So that's going to be a fun one. I did a bauble in this for my advent calendar. So very fun. Okay, I will see you next week. Have a great one. Bye-bye.